Okay, so I'm going to start with the lineage that I found for Granny. And then I'm going to just there's a lot of documents in here, so I'm just going to try and make it as easy as possible. So if you can see my screen, I am circling the Harriet Wahine Ea Kaho'opi'i, which is Granny. So we're going to start here. And since this is where the husbands are, this is her first husband. So that's why it's on my lineage. So we're going to start with Granny. And then in this line are all her siblings and their spouses. But we're going to go to her mom and dad, which is down here. And so it says James Kalima Kaho'opi'i and Lucy Kale Kamau. So this is Granny's mom and dad. The date of her mom is 1883 to 1928. Sometimes these dates are incorrect, so I'll highlight the dates that I think are incorrect. So now we're going to go to Granny's grandparents. And this is Reverend William Kamau Sr. and then Lucy Navajo Kaho'ovaiwai. And see the dates. Lucy is 1871 and Reverend William is 1851. So Lucy was born in 1883. So that means there is a pretty small difference of age. So I think that's math. It's about 12, 13 years. So that means Lucy was about 13 years old when she had her first daughter, her first child, which is Lucy Kale. And this is where I was able to put them together because they weren't connected in the genealogy on this these genealogical search at all. Lucy Kale was not connected to her siblings, which is all in these lines under Kamau. And sometimes I think it gets confusing when like the daughter and the mother have the same name. So these are all the children. And also when there's two wives who, because William was a widow, so Lucy Navai died in 1916 and then he remarried. He didn't have any kids, but so there was a little confusion on that part of things. But let me show you where I have found connection to how I put them together. So if you can see, let me just present this in a bigger way and share. Enlarge this. So this is a consensus, and this is the original one. So let's see. It shows that you can see Kale, where I put the purple circle. Her mom, Lucy N. Kamau, short for Navai. And you can see Lucy Kale's age is 7. Lucy N. Kamau is 20. And it shows that that is mother and daughter. And this is the actual document. It's in Hawaiian. But this shows that they were living together, and then Samuel is there. William Kamau is there as the father, the head of household, and that he's a kahuna pule, which I guess would mean a pastor. So this is where I put them together. Here is a little bit more easier to see. William Kamau, 34, married. He was a kahuna pule. And this, I believe, I don't know if it's in the Big Island or where it was, but this is from the consensus. And then these are all the people who are on the list as well. So they could be also living with them, not sure, but Lucy was 7. And so it looks like there might have even, the kids, the little 2-year-old was there, and another one who's a baby, it looks like. So that is how I put them together. And then let's go into, so we were on Granny's grandmother, mother, who was Lucy Calais, who we just saw age 7 on the consensus. And now we're going to go up to Granny's. So Granny's mom was named Lucy. Her mom was named Lucy. So let's call her Nevi. So that's Granny's grandmother. And then to the next, so there's Granny, Lucy Calais, Lucy Nevi. That's 3. Great. And then we're going to go into the 4th, which is Kalani Ali'i. And I've highlighted her right here. And her husband is Kapula Kamau. And I want to highlight some more information and kind of deep dive into her, because I've already shown where we've had some question marks with Lucy Calais and her mom, and why she might have not been, I guess, identified as a daughter. She's not listed in any of their, whenever he talks about in his obituary and his children, he doesn't say anything about Lucy Calais. So she was obviously either Hanai'd out or she was married young, which sounds like that's kind of what happened, because she was really young when she had Granny. And I think it was similar, like 12 or 13 years old. And so that was another kind of big question, but we're going to focus on Kalani Ali'i, who's right here. Now her date says 1821. I believe that is not correct, and I can explain more later if you just keep that thought. But I have added some information about Kalani Ali'i. So let's go into more information in here. So these articles I've cut and copied from the, it's an article that her son, Reverend William Kamau, wrote for something called The Friend, and it was dedicated to his mother named Kalani Ali'i. So the Kalani Ali'i was the daughter of a high chief named Kaipu a Kahekili of Maui. She was a direct descendant of King Kuali'i of Oahu by her mother, who at one time consolidated the Hawaiian Islands under his rule about 400 years before King Kamehameha I. And the chiefess, so they refer to Kalani Ali'i as a chiefess. And she was reared with Princess Nahi'enaena, who is the daughter of Queen Keopuolani and King Kamehameha I, who resided at Lahaina, Maui. Now, this was the obituary of William Reverend Kamau. So these 2 articles that I first, one was from his obituary, and the other one is from something called The Friend that he wrote specifically about his mother. So I just want to highlight the first one from the obituary, because I think this is going to be a deep dive for later, but if I can just point it out, that the obituary states that she was the daughter of a high chief named Kaipu a Kahekili. And so I know of Kahekili of Maui. I didn't know if he had a son, but that's somewhere we need to focus on and find out, because she was his daughter, who is obviously a high chief. Now, that could be an issue in terms of dates. And I think that's something that I'm doing a deep dive on, because if you look at the death date of Kahekili and then Kalani'ali'i's birth date, there's a lot of discrepancy. There's like 15 years difference between those dates. But I think, like I said, her date is wrong, and I'm gonna go into how to prove that later, especially with this obituary article. This is like a huge lead to that. So if you can help me, pick apart these dates, and especially since she's a direct descendant of King Kuali'i. And so Kalani'ali'i is a really big source of like treasure hunting to, where we're looking at and where we're piecing the pieces back together. And the fact that she was reared with Princess Nahi'ena'ena. So we have to go and look at when they moved to Maui, which was, I believe in 1823. And then when Princess Nahi'ena'ena was born. So this whole paragraph right here, we could pick apart and put dates on and really focus on that, because then we'll get to some dates better and putting more pieces together. So here's another article that the Reverend Granny's grandfather wrote for the Friend. And this is saying, my mother Kalani'ali'i was born at Waihu. I think that's how you say it. Her mother was Kahehe, and her father was Kaipua Kehikili. And when she grew up into a beautiful woman, she went to live with Queen Keopuolani and Princess Nahi'ena'ena. I do want to there's a lot of little secret things in these lines. And I just want to say that anyone who says a beautiful woman, it's usually how the description of the Mo'o lineage. They were always referred to as beautiful women. So I just want to point that out, that I've noticed. So when she grew up to a beautiful woman, which means she must have been, I'm not sure how old that is, but we should pick that as she was not a child, she was, a woman. She went to go live with the queen and Princess Nahi'ena'ena. So that must have been 1823. And then she was living there. She met Kapula and married him. And after a time, my mother and father returned to their home in Waihu and lived happily for a time. My mother returned to Lahaina, leaving my father at Waihu. So she sounded like she wanted to go back to live with Queen Keopuolani, and she didn't want to stay with her husband. So that's something to note. But it sounds like the father was not happy about that. So the father anxiously waited for the mother's return. He filled out a warrant of arrest for my mother on the grounds of desertion at Lahaina, according to Lua'ehu law. So there was a law back then called Lua'ehu, but I also believe there were springs named Lua'ehu in its place. And I didn't realize there was a law, but it sounds like there was, some more oppressive laws going on. And if Kalani'ali'i is living with the queen and the princess, sounds like they're family. That would sound pretty close to being family. On the day of court, my mother was tried and found guilty by the judge. She was sentenced to bring 40 stones from the ocean to Lahaina, Maui, for punishment. She accepted her punishment. So this sounds like it's a very severe punishment. Queen Keopuolani loved my mother, Kalani'ali'i, so lovingly that she asked 39 willing mothers to go to Mala Beach, all diving at once and each bringing a stone to the surface. Thus my mother's punishment was fulfilled. The 40 stones were laid as foundation stones for the Waine'e Church in Lahaina, Maui. So this really was a death sentence because one woman would not be able to go and gather these stones. So this is, this time frame was not a fun time to be living in the Hainet Sounds. But after serving her punishment, she returned to my father at Wai'ehu. They had 6 children, 3 girls and 3 boys. Our parents became members of the Wailuku Church and later transferred to Waine'e Church. My parents, brothers, and sisters have all gone to eternity, and I am left alone. Memories of my parents, sisters, and brothers come to me often. Yours with aloha, Reverend William Kamau, pastor, Kalaihau Church. So this is also where I have learned that, the very important to protect these stones, whether they're coral or not, but they were the cornerstones for this area, whether it was for the cornerstones for Waine'e Church or where they were, because I think according to the date, this must have been in 1823. What was there then? There was a church that was first started called Ebenezer Church. And there were also some homes that Keupulani and Nahi'ena'ena had. So which structure this is, I think is a question mark, but this is what I found. And also I found just some very interesting things about other cornerstones. And the cornerstones are very important for Hawaii. And for a lot of places that are, important to the Hawaiian people. So this is an article called Laying the Cornerstone of the New Royal Palace. And (31st, 1879). And it really just kind of highlights about the cornerstones and why it's such a important part of our history, and why we should also be protecting those cornerstones that our ancestor basically, almost had to give her life for. So let's just see. I'm just going to read a little part of some information. So at this time, talking about Kamehameha, the chiefs became entirely dependent upon Kamehameha because Kamehameha didn't want any conspiracy or rebellious movement. So they had no means of their own to feed or support any of their people or their families. So that's a little bit how he was able to, just confine everybody to be under his rule. So this, there's this time that the seat of government was moved to the island of Maui, especially because of the Battle of Kipaniwai, where he, decided to move everything to Maui because the policy of removing the seat of government to the place recently conquered was sort of this psychological, but also I don't know if he, I'm sure he realized, but having that mana of Moku'ula and Lahaina, especially, the Maui chiefs, that was, I think, important for Keupulani and her side of the family, because they were back in, Maui, where they are from. So anyway, this is a really important book that talks about how these places were built and why. But I wanted to read, this was interesting. The first legislature that ever existed in Hawaii was now celebrated, called the Blue Laws of Lua'ehu. So this talks about that law, the blue laws of Lua'ehu, which was why Kalani'ali'i had to go get the stones in the ocean. So I'm, trying to understand more about these laws, but the seat of government was now, where Kamehameha III, wanted to be. And so it's interesting also is when they decided to also move the government back or to Oahu, it has been said that that in olden times, a large heiau or temple extended to the spot where King Kamehameha III wanted to build, and it was erected for Princess Kamau. But instead, Kamehameha III took possession of it, and it became the home for the kings of Hawaii. So a lot of times, I think like where the bones are laid for, it's important to protect those, because what I've learned is Keopuolani and a lot of the kings, the royal bones have been moved several times from in their original place, but there's reasons why that they choose these places in the very beginning. So it really shouldn't be moved. So this, I think we can go into later, but this is really about the cornerstones, which I think are a very important part of all of the stories, and just want to put in another reason why we should be protecting those at Waiala Church in this current situation. So now we're going to go focus, I think, with Kalani'ali'i. You saw the articles that her son wrote about her, and so this is her, but I believe her date to be wrong. And that is because we know when Keopuolani moved to Lahaina, so either she lived on Oahu with them and was reared, somehow there, because the dates just don't add up. So we're going to go now to her parents, Ehe and Kaipu Maleo Kahakili. And these were the children from that marriage and that relationship. I have a deep dive thought about this because it shows that we don't know who Kahehe's parents are, which that's not normally like in an instance with we heard that through her mother, through Kalani'ali'i's mother, there's a direct descendant to Kuali'i. So why isn't Kuali'i showing up here? Well, I have an idea why, and it's a very deep dive that maybe I'll do that on a second video, because I don't want to overwhelm anybody at this moment, because I know this can be, because right now Kahehe, it doesn't show much about her when she's died or anything, but I have reasons to believe it's for a different reason. So let's just follow the line here, because her mother and father are Kalani Kamehameha. So this person is where I want to focus right now. So I'm just going to highlight this. Now so here's a really big deep dive. These are, this is who the children are stated. So the son, Kaipu Maleo Kahakili, is married to Kahehe. So we're going to just focus on this person. This is the husband and the son of these two people. Now, here's where I've been focusing a lot, is on her. She is actually, let me just show you how this shows up. So Kalani Kamehameha. Down here, it shows that there's birth names and they're also known as names. So this is a really important piece to this puzzle because a lot of the ancients had different names. So if you look at this, it doesn't look like there's many things going on here. Like there's not that many sources. I mean, for someone who's related to Kuali'i, you would think that there'd be a little bit more information. Well, I can tell you why that is, because this person went, she had many different names. And it also, which I will show you. And the issue with family search and these genealogical websites is they can't, so if this person has more than one name, you can't list it all on one record. It only goes in the notes. So here it looks like, you know, not that much information is here. But when you find her other names that she goes by, that's where all the information is. So, and then you can look, see right here, her number is L7GS. That's how you can find out they all have tags. So if you find out her other names, which is this long name, Kalani Kau Io Kikilo, Kalani Vai Akua. So here's lists a lot of her other names as well. Kalani Akua, Kekumano, Chiefus Kalani Kaui Kikilo. Look, Kalani Kau Mehameha, which is our line. So these are all also known as Kalani Akua. I don't know if it's 12 different names. So every time they would get married, have another baby, move somewhere, they would change. Well, not they, but she changed, obviously. So this is the person I've been really delving into. So she married not only her father, but she also married her son and had children with them. So it can get really confusing when you add in all of that, because when you look at the genealogy, she looks like an aunt. She looks like a mother. She looks like a grandmother. And she is all of those things to people. So deep diving, to me, I believe that we might have that instance in our line where she is not only a grandmother, but she's also a mother to the same people. So here's our relative, our great grandmother times 6, Kalani Kamehameha. Look, see the date 1745, 1745. It means they're the same people. And they all have different tags with different kids. So you have to kind of find out which husband, and then if they change their name, then it's not really going to be listed. So her brother is the Kamehameha Nui I Luau. And so that is interesting to know. She also married Kivala'o. And then you can see the kids that they had, and they're not always going to be listed too. So she married into, and she also married King Kamehameha the First, but not because she wanted to. So let's look into the reasons and some of the deep diving, but I just want to really focus on this name because she's also listed Kalani Kamehameha, who was on our direct line, as Ali's grandmother, right here. Kalani Ali's mother's Kahehe, and Kalani Kamehameha. So it lists them as brother and sister or related, because see when you can see when it's like a brother and sister relationship, because the line is in the middle. It's not like, see, this is brother and sister, so the line is in the middle. Let me show you when it's not brother and sister. See, it's like the line is here that shows that's the relative. That's the relative. I mean, not brother and sister, but you can see who's like part of the family. So it doesn't show that, like, it shows that they're both related to this person rather than it's just Kalaniʻaliʻi is, you know, the child of these two people, but it shows these two people are the issues of these two people. It's very confusing, but let's just work with me on this. So if you want to get crazy, let's look into Kahehe being the same person as Kalani Kamehameha. Like, if you really want to get crazy, but I haven't been able to find anything about Kahehe or Kalani. I've only found Kahehe Maile or Malie. So let's dive into that, shall we? And you can rewatch and pause all you want. But okay, let's see. I'm getting there. But if you just there's an article that I found also about Kamehameha Ailuau, which is Kalani Kamehameha's. No, sorry, it is. Maybe I'll save that for another time because I don't want to get you confused. Okay. We're still looking at cheapest here. Okay. Since I want to Kalani Kamehameha and Ki Kahehe, we're talking about both of them at the same time. I just want to show you why. So here is some information from the genealogy of the Ke Ko'olani genealogy of descendants. So these people are, he's a genealogist, and they are very credible. So let me show you. Here's the reference to Kalani Kau'io Kilo, Kalani Vaiakua. So she is a person who, like her ancestor, the Queen of Hawaii Island, appears at several locations as an ancestor. She's a multiple ancestor. Therefore, her mana is believed to be very strong in these specific family bloodlines. So in these genealogies, there are various names that she goes through. Kalani Akua. Let's see, there's Kalani Kamehameha right here. And so I've seen her and Ke Kumano as well in Kalani Akua. So she was an extremely sacred kapuhai chiefess of Maui. She was the Pio daughter of Kamehameha Anui, ruler of Maui, and his royal sister Kololo, who was also married into and became the mother of the Hawaii Island royal family. She married her own father, producing a son, and then she married that son, producing 3 healthy sons who were also her grandsons. And one of these was the grandfather of Pauahi Bernice Bishop. So that's why it gets confusing, because she's the grandmother and the mother in many different ways. So there was also some kapus around her, and so we're just you can read that if you want to, but this is where it references that she is the high chiefess Kalani Kamehameha, and which is really about our line. It's the same line, but she has that name in our genealogy, even though it's the same person. Okay, so we'll get through this. So here's some very So let me just finish this really interesting part of here's a story that High Chief I can't I'm videoing. He sought this chiefess, who was the daughter of Kamehameha, or also known as Kalani Kikilo, or a wife, because of her high rank in sacred kapus, which he hoped to acquire for his own offspring. So yeah, Kamehameha wanted these Maui lineage, and he wanted the daughters, he wanted the aunts, he wanted the grandmothers, he wanted them all. And so what he did was, I'm reading it right here. Let's see. Family had, high lineage who Kamehameha wanted. And there was a laying of the head toward the sun's position in the heavens from its rising into its setting. This was the kapu that was on this, on her daughter. And so during the day, the kapu was strictly kept. The only time for recreation during this kapu must be taken between the setting of the sun and the dawn of the new day. So the daytime was just not a place of fun, because she had to keep her head a certain way all day. And there's a lot of stories that you can read. It's right here highlighted, and it talks about this top kapu was inherited from the chiefess Kalani Kamehameha, because her daughter was having to have her head towards the sun all day. And so anyway, this whole point is to show how this story references Kalani Kamehameha, who was also known as Kalani Kauai Kikilo. So this is where we plug it into our genealogy, because of this genealogist referred to her. So this is really interesting if you can read it, and it goes into it more. The fact that Kalani Kamehameha was another name for Kalani Kauai Kikilo is further verified by the genealogy of the Kuikahi family of Waipio Valley, Ka'au, and Kohala. The Kuikahi family asserts firmly that Kalani Kamehameha was the Pio daughter of Kamehameha Nui Luau and his sister Kalola. There was only one such daughter ever from that sacred chiefly union, which was the exalted chiefess, who is named Kalani Kauio Ikilo, who because of her exceedingly high rank and status, she was a Kalani Akua, a living god in flesh among humans. And she had many, many names and was known by many names all over the islands on Maui, Oahu, Hawaii, Molokai, Lanai, and Kauai. We now understand that Kalani Kau'i Kikilo, also known as Kalani Kau Mehameha, being she was the daughter of King Kamehameha Meha Anui I Luau of Maui. So there are no contradictory genealogies to the story of Kalani Kau Mehameha. And this was written by Dean K.O.O. Lon? No, yes. February 2nd, 2010. So this is why I have put Kalani Kamehameha as also Chiefess Kalani Kau'i Kokilo, but she's not listed. So if I go under my tree, so I'm going to go under my relationship to her, and it says that she's my great aunt, 6th great aunt, but she's actually, because she's really the mother and the daughter, because they're like multiple ancestors. She is great grandmother, because Kalani Kau Mehameha shows up as my 6th great grandmother. This. So if you click on that, and she's the 6th great grandmother. So I hope that that's made some sense and that out. So this person is actually the chiefess that has so many names, and she is listed several times on she's listed several times. I'll show you. Deleted person. Oh. Oh, she was, so people come in and delete because she's like a duplicate. So that just got deleted. And it says the September 3rd, and it's not even the 3rd right now. That's very strange. Here, if you go into the notes, this person is Kalani Kamehameha, and it explains everything that I just read. So these are all in the notes. Weird. It says September 3rd, 2023, a merge was completed, relationship added, and it's not the 3rd, it's the 2nd. So this person must be some. Yeah, you can go in here and look at things, but it's really interesting to know that this is our ancestor. Deleted person. So she was merged into this person. So, because there was like 3 or 4 different people, and now it's all in one. And we just saw it like in real time. That's pretty interesting. So if you go down here, it shows that actually there's still 3. Oh, there's 2 chiefesses, the same name, and then there's Kalani Kamehameha. Because they said that there was only one daughter of this pairing. There's 3 listed here, but they're the same people. So over here where it says like these are her parents, and this is her and her husband. She has many, and then many kids. So this is where her kids and her husbands are listed. She married her father. These are the children from that. She married her other relative. But these are all going to be listed as the chiefess Kalani. It's not going to say Kalani Kamehameha with anything connected to like the larger chiefs. So this is on our line, but we know that she's she looks like she's coming up as an aunt to us, like a 6th great aunt, but instead of the same people, it's grandmother, 6th great grandmother. So I hope made a little sense on that. Now let me get to, since I told you I would go back and forth to these people, I think that they're not right, and I'm going to show you why. Show you why in a second. Okay. Wait. Oh yeah, okay. Hold on a second. I have a lot of tabs open and have been probably reading nonstop for 2 weeks. Like I think a lot of people were. So we went over Kalani Ali'i. We went over how we matched up Lucy Pillay, Lucy Kamau. We've seen how Granny's mother and grandmother are also Lucy, and then there's another Lucy. And now we're getting back into the 5th great grandmother and 6th, which keep talking about Kalani Kamehameha and this Ka He He O Kalani. So here it is right here. This is Kahehe 1795 supposedly, and Kalani Kamehameha 1763. So this is just an interesting thing. If you look at, I don't think these are the same people, but they are named very similar. So I'm you know that they're related somehow, but Kahehe o Kalani and Kalakaua Kahehe Maili, later known as Hoapili Wahine, are buried at Waine'e Cemetery. So one source calls her Kahehe Maili rather than there's either Maili or Malie, and so that's there's always like these misspellings, or the people that were writing the history didn't always speak Hawaiian. So we know it sounds like these people are related because of the same spellings. So whether Kahehe o Kalani is, like an aunt to Kalakaua Kahehe Maili, not sure, but that's something I want to dive into as well. So here it is again, Kalani Kamehameha, who we know is the chiefess, Kalani, the longer name. Her mother is Kalola, and her father, they were brother and sister. And so this is also very important information. We're just going to stop here because this is the 7th great grandmother, Kalola, and we know that she is the grandmother of Keipulani. So, and the connector of all of these royal Maui lineages from Ka'ahumanu to, the Kamehameha kids, and knowing that she is on our line is where we should really be kind of really looking at Kahehe and Kalani Kamehameha, because she's the grandmother or the mother. I'm not saying everything, but I'm still really kind of seeing this Kahehe. Still have a lot of questions on that. And then this is what I just copied from Dean's for genealogists, and it talks more about the Kalani Kamehameha and her. So, and it also describes like why we're not connected to them on the actual document. It's because the two names could not be merged by the system. So you just saw we were actually on the genealogy site in real time, and it showed that it was deleted. So you have to like delete a person, which is very scary to do. But that lady deleted this chiefess because she said it was a duplicate. So I'll have to go back in later and just make sure all the information is there, but I'm sure it is because I've sort of cut and pasted it into here. So yes, the two names couldn't be merged. So normally if, you know, this is where we know who this person is. If you put in her chiefest name, it comes up that she was, you know, her husband is Kalani, like a different man and with different kids. So that's why we just, it's, you have to be really specific and understanding like which, especially if they had a lot of husbands and a lot of kids, which this one does. And she had, her highest rank of, I guess, was her brother, who, if we're doing this right, shows that, you know, that's our lineage. And where I put here, Kalani Kamehameha is the same person as this chiefess. And what's interesting as well is the dates that she died. 1808 is the date that supposedly she died on the Big Island when she was at the court of Kamehameha after she was kidnapped with her sister and mother. And here is a little bit more of who, like, I don't really want to go into it to confuse, but I think since this is the line, this is like 8, you know, going into 8 great grandmother. So it looks like we can probably go pretty far back. And this talks about Kamehameha Anui Luau had 4 wives, all very close relatives of his. His first wife and sister of full blood was Princess Kalola the Great, and they had a daughter, the sacred Princess Kalani Kaikikilo, which is Kalani Kamehameha. So I also, since we're on this, just wanted to go into some really interesting things on like what brought me to, you know, start taping this, because I went into this about 2 years ago and, you know, was going to meet with Waiala Church to give them the information about the stones that were brought in from the beach from Kalani Ali'i's warrant for her arrest. And when I started to research everything, it was, you know, August 8th and 9th, like research even more. And it just so happened that there were these dates that just kind of popped out at me, and why I'm so committed to talking about this now, because it just seems we're in a repeat like of time, and it could be a stuck repeat. And I think, you know, the Maui lineages have had to go underground for so long, change their names. They were captive princesses. It was a very oppressive system and time where, you know, the Maui lineage is, they had to go into hiding. And so it was interesting that a lot of this like lined up in synchronicity with the dates that the church burned on August 8th. And I found something that King Kalakaua wanted a board of genealogy of Hawaiian chiefs to record the genealogies of those that were high-ranking blood and could be considered in the event that someone had to be named an heir. The names, they were talking about who was of royal status, and which is interesting. Because in the old, before Pa'ao, everybody was the same. There wasn't the class system with the elites and being higher above. So Kalakaua wanted to search for ancient things which have been lost or concealed in places for concealment, and for asserting the places of the ancient chiefs where their bones are now concealed. And this date was on August 9th of 1890. The Hawaiian legislature enacted an act to perpetuate the genealogy of the chiefs of Hawaii. Now, there's another subject that I'll go into in another video that shows Kalakaua as being a Freemason. So, being very, there was a lot of, I guess, I don't know, good or bad things going on with the people that were in his cabinet, but it seemed that there was a schism in, the ways of this old period of, what they call ka'anani'au, which was pre-Pa'au and non-warring, and it was peaceful and a peace of plenty, which was the mo'o way, which was really about waterways and water flow and gardens and food gardens. And so it sounds like there's some schisms in time, and with this fire happening and the church, it was really awakening to not talk about this, and then seeing that there was an enactment, a proclamation on this date of the fire that said to search for the genealogy of these ancient chiefs. So it was like, okay, this is a proclamation that we were doing in secret or, alone. And now it really just needs to come out in a way where there's no fear-based, because of just back then, it was always people were talking about who's of higher class and who's of higher rank and who's fit to be king. We don't have to, worry about that hopefully anymore, because it was a game that was meant to fail and meant to really extinct the line, actually, even though we know they're not extinct, but extinct to be on the throne, so that there could be this committee of safety come in and take over and annex into their whole plan. This is another thing I really wanted to highlight. This is Hale Kamani, which was built for Princess Nahi'ene'ena, and it's 1851 to 1861 in Lahaina. I just was thinking, wow, was our ancestor Kalani Ali'i living in there? Just to be able to see what it looked like is really special. And knowing that this is the site that our ancestor did live, and she was raised with the princess. So having this as a view, it's really special. And then it goes to another synchronicity, not a good synchronicity, but the name of this building destroyed by fire was Hale Kamani. And the reason this house was named Hale Kamani was that Kamani wood was used throughout this building, and the chiefs of ancient times had constructed the house and named it Hale Kamani. And this is a photo of Princess Nahi'ene'ena. Now, there's something going on with fire and this date, August 8th, August 9th, the 8 and the 8 and the 9 and the 1880. I don't know what it is, but I'm reporting it. And the term fires, Lahaina changing its name to having a, drought-induced dryness that is hot and not of a vibrant Venice of the Pacific like Lele was, and like the original ancient name. And then knowing that Princess Nahi'ena's name was Fiery Fires, and the color red is all very cool. And, I read somewhere that she wasn't fond of wearing this cape. What was the significance? It was, there was a lot of ku energy and lono energy, which they are of the mo'o energy. So look at this, and this is, I'm going to end here. At 8 p.m. this last August 8th, the dormitory of the female students of Reverend Mason here in Lahaina burned down. The source of the fire was a kerosene lamp set up on a dresser near the wall of the house in the room of Miss Spurgeon, one of the teachers of that girls' school. Now, knowing that Kalani Ali'i lived with Princess Nahi'ena and was interested in Queen Keopuolani's teachings, was she living at this dormitory with these students? We do have records that she lived there and that she spent her time there. So, this is just history and sharing the history and knowing that when we have the knowledge, then we're able to move forward. We leave what needs to stay in the past and bring forward the benevolence and the goodness to the future. And there's a lot of things with the numerology and the symbolism and the naming. So once we know the original names and putting the language back in and saying our ancestors' names, this is what my intent is for sharing this. And I think there's going to be a lot more I'll tape in the near future. So thank you for listening. Ahoy ho!